Hello and welcome to This Week in Laker Football, our weekly look into the West Bloomfield Lakers all season long. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside West Bloomfield Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers. The Lakers 1-0 after an opening win against Dearborn Fordson, 37-0, and coach, for the second consecutive year, your team with a blowout win here at Lakers Stadium in week one. Your overall thoughts coming out of those first 48 minutes?
Well, I guess the luckily score is about exactly what you would want if you could pick and wish for something. But it looked like a week one. We made our fair share of mistakes, as I know they did too. Luckily, it didn't cost us on the scoreboard, but it's just stuff you got to work on to get better if you don't want it to cost you down the road.
The defense definitely showed up to play. 7 returning starters. You kind of expected them to be on top of their game, even as much as you can be with all the week one jitters in play. But what was really impressive was the way your offense got into rhythm. 4 returning starters, basically an entire new offensive line, a young quarterback getting his first varsity reps, leading most of the game in Jaxson Carver. How impressed were you with their performance over a pretty tough and veteran defense from Fordson?
Yeah, Fordson definitely has some guys. I thought their linebacking core was pretty good too, and it showed up in the game just like we saw on film. But I was impressed with our guys and how they took what they did all summer and translated it to the game. But I wouldn't say I was surprised, I guess. And you mentioned Jaxson. He was great last year when we'd pull him up in practice. And some of the receivers that left, whether it was Cam and Jaden and Elijah, they all told me how good he could be. So to see it happen, I guess, was relieving, but not surprising.
And what was also pretty surprising was the way that the offensive line was able to move a really pretty tough defensive line from Fordson. They're big, they're strong, they're veteran D linemen on top of that. How impressed were you with your front 5 and their performance with a really tough matchup in the opening frame?
Yeah, because Fordson's big and they're pretty strong, and we're not as big up front as we've been across the board. Obviously Travis is huge, and we throw Jeremiah at tight end. He's a pretty big kid too. But across the board, we have different types of athletes, so we try to cater to their skills a little bit, and they did a really good job, and they're just going to have to kind of keep going forward with the coaching and the technique.
You get through those first couple of series in any games, you have those sort of scripted first couple runs out on offense, and so does all your opponents. Then you get into the game where it is kind of that battle of the minds with your players and with your coaching staff. Your players seem to adjust really well. Whenever Fordson would be able to start stopping the run, you'd be able to get the passing game involved, and vice versa. What do you have to say about the resilience of your team in that first game, especially early on, to get that momentum going in those first few minutes?
Yeah, our offensive coordinator, Ken Rise, he's always been really big into the fact that, there's going to be some times when he's 100% right or we're 100% right and we call the perfect play, and it's going to happen on the other side too, where the defense on the other side calls the perfect thing or dials something up to stop you. Both sides that are going to happen. And football games are not really won and lost in those moments. It's the other moments that are kind of neutral, I guess, where the players have to go and make the difference. So, it is a little bit of a game of perseverance, but we try to play complementary football where if you take something away, we can respond with something else.
I'm trying not to look too far ahead, but defensively, the performance in week one, a shutout against Dearborn Fordson with the veteran quarterback, veteran skill players, and a really stout offensive line. You look forward to teams that had big week ones as well. You look a few weeks down the road at Clarkston, a big win on the road in Detroit against Belleville, even the performance and loss from Lake Orion against Northville in week number 1. How impressed particularly were you with the secondary, being able to shut down a pretty well-connected quarterback receiving core?
Our secondary?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty. We knew that they would be challenged a little bit in the RPO game and over top, and for most of the game we did a really good job. We blew a coverage that they scored on. Luckily there was a holding call that kind of negated that, so that was just kind of something glaring that we kind of have to fix and clean up. But overall we knew they'd be tested. We think they'll be tested again this week at Southfield, so hope we're up to the challenge.
And the help defense was also a big factor in there. You think about the fumble that was forced that led to a touchdown. That came from a big hit and then a good stick-to-itiveness to keep your eye on the football and see that ball's popped out. We got an opportunity and a quick set of blocking also to open up a hole. The teamwork, I think, was something that stood out really well for your defense against Fordson. How important is that, especially getting established in week one, for your guys to be able to make supportive plays, especially in space on defense?
Yeah, I think we flew around pretty well. It wasn't, perfect, but a lot of guys running to the football, and really good things happen for a defense if you run to the football. So you saw it happen with Zeke when, to be honest, he probably got a lucky bounce. It bounced right to him, but he was there and he was running to the ball, and you saw kind of a convoy leading him to the end zone because they were all doing what they were supposed to do. So, yeah, obviously if football's not round, it's going to bounce here, there, and everywhere, but if you're running to the ball, more often than not, you're going to get those lucky bounces.
You saw those bounces going everywhere from Dean Hamoud on those punts all throughout the game. High hang time, moving all over. The hands team work on Wednesday definitely came into play against Dean Hamoud. With Coach Hilbers, West Bloomfield 1-0 after a 37-0 victory in Week 1 at the Swamp on a Thursday night. They continue this week Friday against Southfield A&T, coming in 0-1 after a blowout loss of their own last week. Coach, what was really impressive, too, was the number of guys that came up onto the roster this year. 4 starters coming up on the defensive side, 7 new starters on the offensive side. And we saw some of the new Jimmies and Joes really get involved well in this offense and acclimate early on. Offensively, Cam Hall and Joel Davis played really well also from the backfield. Defensively, Kalik Robinson stepped up into a starring role, and you had guys like Ezekiel Davis have big games too. How important was it for some of those younger guys getting into the mix to figure out their role in Week 1 and really cement themselves into it as we get into the thick of the season?
Yeah, it's huge because, you have ideas of what kids can do, but you got to really see it happen in a real life game action. And, we had 2 sophomores starting on the offensive line. They did a great job, and a third one, Kenneth Peterson, played a lot. So to have 3 sophomores play on the offensive line and be able to run the ball for just under 250 yards, that's somewhat encouraging, obviously for this year and hopefully for the future as well. And, yeah, those guys on defense that stepped up, I'm real proud of them because a lot of them have kind of been waiting their turn. Kalik got to play a lot last year, but Zeke not as much, and he was kind of ready for the challenge.
It's a 37-0 victory. On paper, it's a shutout win. It's against a historically really tough opponent. You would look on paper, see that victory, the way that your team played, and think it was perfect football. Any coach would tell you there's never perfect football, even in a blowout, shutout victory. What are you looking for your team to build on from last week that could make them still have as powerful of a performance in weeks 2 through 9 in the playoffs, but make them a better, more complete football team beginning next week?
Yeah, we just made some mistakes, some mental mistakes, whether it's adrenaline and jitters from that first game or just, a couple guys stepping into new roles. You throw a lot at them, and they just kind of have to work their way through it. But if you can, get better and work on stuff and still win, it's a really good thing. And obviously win turned out to be convincingly. So I'm happy with where Week 1 was, but Week 1's over now, and we're on Week 2.
A lot to be impressed with, but it's a long season, and each and every week takes a lot of preparation, especially when you're going up against OAA opponents. That's certainly going to be the case for West Bloomfield. Southfield A&T coming to town on Friday, 7 o'clock kickoff right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll get you introduced to one of the new power players in this Lakers offense, and then later on, Coach Hilbers will rejoin me. We'll preview that game against Southfield A&T. It's This Week in Laker Football on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. We'll be right back. This football. Dowell loses it. Lakers have it. Big hit and a rip up. And here come the Lakers setting sail for a touchdown. What a play and a recovery. It's Ezekiel Davis in the first round pick. Maxwell Hairston's old number 22.
Hi, this is Ken Graham, Director of the National Weather Service. Leaving a kid or a pet in a car can be deadly. In fact, every year, dozens of kids die of heat stroke in hot automobiles. Some are left there by caretakers, others get in there on their own, and they can't get back out. All of these deaths are preventable. Even on a relatively cool day or cloudy day, the temperature inside a car can quickly reach deadly temperatures in minutes. To keep your child or pet safe, set reminders, like a simple note on a dashboard, or put your phone or other belongings in the back seat. I always place my backpack in the back. Kids don't see the family car as dangerous, but in just 10 minutes, a hot vehicle can be fatal. Never leave a child unattended. Look before you lock.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football. I'm Tyler Keefe, looking into the West Bloomfield Lakers program each and every week, all throughout the season. Of course, we talk to Coach Hilbers and review each and every game and preview the next one coming up. But we also want to get to know some of the key players. And joining me is West Bloomfield Lakers junior quarterback Jaxson Carver. Jaxson, welcome to the program and welcome into a big role in 2025. Your first game at the helm as the full-time starter alongside Jamal Shakespeare at the quarterback position. How'd you feel about your first 48 minutes?
It was good. I think, we played well as a team. We executed well, and we have things to work on, but that's how week one is. You have stuff to work on, but then you keep getting better. By week 9, we should be rolling, and hopefully we can get into the playoffs and we can win some games.
Last year on the depth chart, you were the number 3 quarterback. You were going to get some practice reps, going to get to see how this offense operates under some veteran quarterbacks. Then you get injured, and now you're not able to be in the thick of the physical parts of practice. You're still able to observe. So as you were on the sidelines last season, what do you think were the biggest things that you learned that helped you better prepare for 2025?
Well, like you said, hurt. So, I couldn't practice, but mental reps were huge for me. So, if we're in practice, I'd go stand behind Bo and Jamal and be like, okay, what do I see? What coverage, what do I have to do in this situation? Do I have to run? Do I have to hand this off? And stuff like that. So, mental reps are the biggest thing, just learning from them, learning from their mistakes, helping them out, asking them important questions to, really just better myself.
And you're a very similar quarterback to Bo in many ways. Tall, big body, center of gravity is kind of low as you're in the pocket, but you also have the ability to be mobile in a strategic fashion. So what was that season like for you last year, being able to observe Bo playing at a high level, now going on to D1 football at Pittsburgh, and ultimately bring some of that into your game for this season?
Yeah, well, just seeing what he does, what he would do in this situation, if there's pressure, how is he going to run, like you said, because I'm a similar player to him. So really just seeing what he does, if he makes a mistake, how can I learn from that mistake also and improve it and, add it to my game.
You always look toward the trenches in the game of football in all three phases, but it really plays arguably the biggest role on the offensive side. This season, 4 returning starters in total on offense, only one of those on the offensive line. How impressed were you with the play of your front 5 against Fordson?
I was very happy with those guys. We have 2 sophomores, like you said, a lot of guys that are, aren't returning. I was very impressed how they moved guys out the way. Snaps were great. Protection was great in the passing game, and I was just very happy how they opened up holes for our running backs.
Yeah, very impressive week number 1 against a big, imposing defensive line from Fordson. They're going to need a lot more of that, a veteran defensive line coming in this week as Southfield A&T comes to town. We also were able to seemingly develop some quick chemistry with your skills players. It helps to have veterans like Jamal and, of course, Will in the backfield who have a lot of those varsity reps and have seen a lot of competitive football. But how impressed were you with some of the guys that come up the depth chart this season and came onto the roster from JV, making big jumps in week number 1?
Yeah, I was very impressed with those guys, but to be honest, it's nothing new. On JV, we've been doing the same thing for years. We just had to show people. On JV, you don't got as many people. You don't got the whole city coming out here to watch. So when we got on varsity, I knew what they could do. I just knew they had to execute.
And so diving deeper into that JV experience, because that does play a role ultimately when you guys get to the varsity level. You already have that chemistry, so how does that play a factor then when you come out here on the field for 48 minutes, under the lights, all eyes are on you, now you're in the spotlight as the key players for your school? Does it sort of take the pressure off?
Oh yeah, definitely. When you could come out here and just trust your guys, especially for a quarterback, first, starting game. So if I can just get my guys the ball, get them in space, I know I trust them. I know they can do a lot of stuff with the ball in their hands, and it helps a lot.
How excited are you to get, of course, into a game like this with so much social dynamics to it, with the history from these players with Southfield A&T, but then get into really competitive football against some of the best defenses in the state in the OAA? I'd imagine quite an interesting challenge from an up-and-coming quarterback.
Yeah, I'm excited. A lot of just get better. Learn from your mistakes. This week in week 1, play next week. You're gonna have mistakes, learn, and then just keep getting better. As the farther we get down the season, you're going to have tougher competition, and then especially when you get in the playoffs. So just learning from each week, getting better, and yeah.
critics don't know anything. We stand on the sidelines, we make our predictions, we look at the rosters and try to connect one season to the next. But high school football is so malleable. It's always a moving part. There's always new players coming into play. And so as you are out there playing the 48 minutes with your guys on this field, as you're getting into the season, all those expectations, how do you keep that on the back burner and just focus on the 48 in front of you?
You really can't think about it. People are going to have their opinions from, whether it's coaches or anyone. I try not to listen to really anybody. I only listen to my coaches, and that's really it. Maybe my parents, but even I try to just zone in on what I have to do. People think they know what's going on here, but they really don't. So that's what I always think about. People hate and people compliment you. That's awesome, but I know what I did right. I know what I did wrong. I know what I gotta learn from to get better.
Arguably the biggest criticism of this offense, and even arguably the entire program this season, is the 2-quarterback system. You're playing most of the reps in week number 1. Jamal gets some reps at quarterback too. That's going to be the case all throughout the season. Why do you think people are wrong when they think a 2-quarterback system means you have a 0-quarterback system?
I think a lot of people just think he needs to be getting all the reps, if you're splitting quarterbacks, he can't do this or he can't do this. But I think me and Jamal, I think we can both do a lot of different stuff, and it throws defenses, for a loop when they're like, now we got 2 quarterbacks in the games. There was a play versus Fordson, I lined up in the backfield, right? And they're like, defense, what are we going to do with this? So I think it's very interesting to play with him. It's fun, and I think it's tough on defenses to really game plan for us.
It's always been an element of this Lakers offense. Have a lot of guys line up under center or more than likely in the shotgun and take some plays from the Wildcat or play some quarterback. A lot of these players on this offense have played quarterback in the past, including Will, of course, Jamal, and of course, Jaxson Carver, the Lakers starting quarterback with us. Jaxson, before we head into week 2 and the rest of the season, your thoughts on your game in week number 1. What are you looking to improve on into week number 2 as you take the reins of this offense?
Maybe just timing on some things. You get older, you move up to varsity. The speed is definitely faster than JV and freshman. So you move up, and you get in the game, everything's moving fast. So I would just like to probably process a little bit quicker and get the ball out of my hands on time.
Jaxson Carver with us. The Lakers taking on Southfield A&T Friday night, 7 o'clock kickoff right here at the Swamp. We'll have it live for you on Civic Center TV and 89.3 at Lakes FM. Jaxson, thanks as always.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll preview that matchup with the Warriors of Southfield A&T. Coach Hilbers joins me right back here after this break. It's This Week in Laker Football on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Carver out of the shotgun, looking long, up the field, it is caught, got it, Lakers gonna score again. Touchdown for West Bloomfield. It is Willie Edwards.
Willie Edwards gets wide open on this play, and Jaxson Carver delivers a dot right to him, allowing him to not break stride whatsoever. Let's see this replay. Gets him with the play fake, pump fakes even, and just delivers a perfect pass and says, gets Jax.
Mom, did you really need to buy 2 can openers for our emergency kit?
I can't help it. They're 2 for 1. What's this?
We need to keep our family communication plan safe in case of an emergency.
Thanks, Tita.
We should think ahead to keep Mom and Dad safe when it floods this year. I've got an evacuation route loaded in my phone.
I've got an updated list of Dad's meds.
And I've got just what we need to get them to take this seriously.
Start a conversation with your family and plan together for emergencies.
Watch West Bloomfield Lakers football all season long on 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. Join Tyler Kieft and Matt Catoni each week for live, in-depth, and exclusive coverage before, during, and after the big game. It's your local high school football team on the road and in your backyard on your home for West Bloomfield Laker football, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside West Bloomfield Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers, picking up win number 16 in his 3rd season at the helm at West Bloomfield High School. Now looking to number 17 this Friday as it's rivalry week. Southfield A&T coming into town Friday night at 7 o'clock. Always an interesting matchup. They're kind of in a difficult spot these last couple of years. They come off a championship. Last year, a big rebuilding year. So far this year, those growing pains still present, but you can never count out the Warriors. What are you looking at from their team and prepping for as you head into week number 2?
It's always an emotional game for us, like on both sides. I know they'll be amped up, ready to go, and so will our kids. A lot of them have known each other for the majority of their life, if not all their life. So, yeah, there's a lot goes into it, and we know they're big and strong, and their coach, McKenzie, does a really good job. He's a good coach. He's a good man, and we'll have them ready to go.
Losing 8-43 last week against East Kentwood. They're going to come in with a head of steam. They got a veteran team, too, in some pretty key places. A couple of big returning O-linemen. Kenny Brooks on the defensive side. He's got a lot of varsity reps under him as well. And then they come back, too, with their quarterback, Jeremy Porter, who's had a pretty good, solid varsity career. So there's a lot to prepare for coming into week number 2, looking into this OAA competition. The good thing is you get a little bit of that OAA competition. How important is a week like this, cross-division, to get ready for the thick of the local team season?
Oh, it's huge. It's really important. So, I know our kids will be ready to play just because it's Southfield and the name alone, but we just got to keep our momentum going because everything you said is true. Quarterback's a great athlete. He's got experience. Their lines are big and strong. So, in a way, they look similarly to Fordson last week. They can put some athletes out there, and they got big, strong kids. So it's on us to be at the top of our game.
And it's easy, too, when you have a big week number 1, even as you get later into that game, 28-0, 35-0, certainly 37-0, to take your foot off the gas a little bit, maybe lose your focus, penalties come into play. If you have that happening in week 1 and when you're up that big, it's one thing. It's another thing if it bleeds into week number 2. In terms of discipline, especially in an emotional game like that, how important of a factor does that play in to a matchup like Southfield A&T?
Oh, huge. Every year, that discipline and doing things the right way is kind of paramount whenever you play them. Like I said, it's emotional. It's emotional before the game, and it's definitely emotional during the game.
West Bloomfield versus Southfield A&T. They won big last year against the Warriors, looking to do the same and open up their season 2-0 as they head into the OAA Red Division play. And that's the other big thing about this. You get those 2 weeks to begin the season to really refine what you've been working on in camp and get ready for the OAA Red Division, which quite literally came down to the buzzer last season. How much more of a factor does that make it in preaching to your team how important every single week is, especially as you're getting ready for divisional season?
Well, I think that's the benefit of having a really tough schedule every year with the strength of our division is that it puts such an emphasis on each week. And that's why OAA red teams, there's always one that makes runs in the playoffs because pretty much all season we've been kind of grinding every single week. You take a week off, you're going to lose. And obviously when you translate that to the playoffs, if you're lucky enough to make it, if you have a bad week, you're done. So we get kind of used to it, I guess, the mentality of having to be ready to go each week and you're having those 5 days to put your best product on the field.
Every week you want to see something new come onto your team that you can add to the plus column, that you can look at as this is rock solid, this is something we can strategically move into the Lake Orion game, the Clarkston game. We look toward the end of the season, games like Roseville, and certainly you hope to have those elements in the playoff time. After what you saw in week 1, what are you hoping to see develop into a solid element of this team across all 3 phases in week number 2?
Yeah, we had some special team stuff definitely to clean up where we gave up some yards, not in the return game, but in our own return game, just not fielding the ball like we should. So that's one big thing for me because as the schedule gets harder and harder, you can't give away 20 yards at a time on special teams. And I don't know, just kind of some of those mental mistakes I mentioned earlier. We want to see those decrease each single week, and obviously, hopefully, get to a point where you're not making any. And that should come with more game reps and a little bit more comfort and confidence.
Every year we talk about the history of this matchup. We talk about the social element of it. You mentioned not only is it a rivalry, these kids have history. They played junior football together. They've grown up together. They've known each other their entire lives. How does that really factor into, of course, game day, but even the preparation, knowing that you're a few days out from going up against their friends at Southfield A&T?
I mean, it's definitely good and bad. They know a lot about each other on both sides, I'm sure. But also, that can kind of lead to some overconfidence where it's like, oh, I know them. I know what they can do. It's like, no, man, they're a year older. They're a year stronger, too. And, they can still be a different and a better player than they were a year ago, just like we think a lot of our guys are. So there's a little bit of familiarity, obviously, and you got to find, I guess, the strengths with that and not let overconfidence get in your way.
You win the state championship, everybody's hunting you down. You have a couple of down years following that, one down year, and then you start off a little bit rough. People start to let their guard down. You can't do that if you're the Lakers on Friday against Southfield A&T. Coach, your final thoughts as we reflect on week number 1, put that in the rearview mirror, and look toward a tough week number 2 as we head into OAA play.
Yeah, well, the result week 1 is about as good as you could have wanted, but we're hoping for the same thing week 2 and trying to build some confidence going into our league slate. So we just got to do things our way and do it the right way, and we'll give it our best on Friday.
Those close matchups last year were a big difference maker for the Lakers. This is where you refine your game so that when those close matchups come up this season, you put those mostly in the win column. Coach, thanks as always.
You got it.
Lakers take on Southfield A&T. Kickoff Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. right back here at the Swamp at Lakers Stadium. We'll have the game broadcast live for you on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. For our entire team and the team at West Bloomfield High School's football program, I'm Tyler Kieft. Thanks for tuning in to This Week in Laker Football.